Hey guys, how's it going? Back with another video today, just covering on the last bits of information coming out of the Tokyo Game Show. We're going to look at things like the campaign length in terms of hours, what to expect before release in terms of announcements, shows and stuff like that, and we're going to show off some gameplay from a YouTube channel called Purple Haired Ray. It is a Japanese channel, but link in the description. I link all my sources down there. We're also going to be looking at an interview by Snube with Octavian, and some interviews from Dengeki Online and Famitsu.com as well. If you do want to help out the channel, throw a like on the video, sub for more. I'm always looking at Path of Exile 2 news without any of the clickbaity nonsense, so let's just jump straight in. First things first, I have already covered the passive keystones that got leaked at the very start of the Tokyo Game Show. If you're not familiar, one of the participants streamed their demo live to Twitch. It's since been taken down, but the community grabbed screenshots of those, translated them. I've gone through all those screenshots in that video, which I'll link in the description so you can check it out. I've also covered already the topic on the cost of early access and the amount of early access, so what will be available in terms of acts, that being 3 instead of the 6 that we were kind of initially told. That video, again, linked in the description, so go check it out if you want more information on those. I might briefly touch on those as we go, but I won't be covering them in depth because we've already done that. Alright, so in terms of the gameplay you're seeing in the background, again, that is from a channel, I'm assuming it's called Purple Haired Ray because that is their banner on their actual channel page. If you want to watch the full thing, the link is in the description as I mentioned. Very much the starting point for this video, which is a little over 3 minutes in, is that the character selection screen. I absolutely love this. We only see 6 characters, which is interesting. Obviously, we know there's 12 characters in total. Obviously, there's only 6 at the moment. You select your character from one of these on the gallows. I absolutely love this. It's such a good artistic style. I'm curious to see how they're going to fit 12 full characters on these gallows, or if you're maybe going to swap between 2. Either way, that's me nitpicking. We'll get to that at some point. Something to note about this gameplay, no shade on Purple Haired Ray. They don't really use their flasks, which is something quite interesting because Jonathan mentioned this in the Famitsu.com interview. He mentioned a lot of new players to Path of Exile 2 kind of forget to use their flasks, which I thought was quite interesting, but we do actually see it in this gameplay. Purple Haired Ray dies quite often, which, you know, no shade. They're obviously new to the game, but they're often not using their flasks. This is something that's going to be quite intensive in Path of Exile 2. Jonathan's discussed it quite a few times. They're really trying to onboard new players quite well. And Octavian and Snube also discussed this topic as well, in that in original Path of Exile, many players pick it up and then put it down after about an hour, 2 hours, and then don't touch it again for like 5-6 months. And I say this because that's my own experience, and it's actually the experience of a friend of mine who now religiously plays Path of Exile. It is so beginner unfriendly. That is changing in Path of Exile 2. Again, for Famitsu.com, one of their interviewers actually went and played the game. They had not played Path of Exile before, and they commented that the onboarding experience was really good. They never felt lost, they were never unsure of what to do, and I think that is a massive plus for Path of Exile 2, because if they're gonna attract an audience, they need to retain that audience. It's not going to be helpful if people jump in, they're immediately put off. It sounds like they've done a lot of work in Path of Exile 2 to address that. And again, in that interview with Snube and Octavian, that was their experiences as well. Both of them had picked it up the first time, put it down because it was so complex, it was so unfriendly to new people, it didn't explain certain things. And then, of course, I mean, Octavian works there, Snube covers it regularly. They both fell in love with the game on their second attempt when they had that energy to put more time into it. We also got to look at the passive skill tree here. I won't go into it in depth because a lot of this will likely change. Again, I've covered the keystones that kind of came out of this demo, so you can check out that video there if you want more information. As the video continued on, we do get to see a couple of boss fights in here, and we also got to see the inclusion of damage numbers. Now, I'm not a big damage number fan. I never really care for them, even in games that include them kind of stock standard. I don't really pay that much attention, to be honest. It's just not something I look at. I'm more the type of person that looks at the health bar and I see how quickly that drains or isn't draining if I'm doing poorly. I don't hate the inclusion of damage numbers. I think they're pretty good. They're included in the same way that Elden Ring includes damage numbers, which is that it's a small number on top of the health bar, which you can see on screen here. Funnily enough, as we talk about damage numbers, Jonathan had mentioned in one of the interviews that his favorite Japanese action role-playing game is Elden Ring, and I think we've seen a lot of that influence here. Again, that's a divisive topic. Some people aren't happy that this is going down a bit of a Souls-like path. Other people are really looking forward to it. I'm on the fence. I'm keen to see what they take from those games and implement here, but I'll let you make your own judgment on that because it is very subjective. All right, and the final thing I wanted to highlight in this gameplay, which will keep running in the back, is that we got a brief look at the map. Now, again, it is in Japanese. This map is going to be modular. Remember that. The campaign is going to change slightly between leagues. We don't have a lot of information what that looks like right now, but I really like the art style. I think they've done quite well with this. Again, very similar system. You've got your different nodes. I assume there'll be quick travel points. There's not a great deal to break down there, but I thought it was worth highlighting for you. So keeping the focus on gameplay, let's talk about the campaign. In the article from Famitsu.com, we did find out that they believe the campaign is going to take people around 40 to 50 hours in total. They got that from the new user testing they're doing, which is where they put down people who have never played Path of Exile, they sit them down with Path of Exile 2 and just let them run wild. Those people were completing Acts 1 and 2 in about 18 hours. So from that, they've extrapolated that it'll take 40 to 50 hours to complete the actual campaign. That's a really subjective number. I wouldn't get attached to that. If you're a PoE veteran, I'm sure you'll probably do it faster. And of course, once you've run it a few times, it'll be like butter, I'm sure. The problem with Path of Exile is, depending on how you're building your character, if you're changing things over time, it varies wildly. I still remember the 2018 Path of Exile IGN review. The guy took 75 hours to complete the campaign, which is absolutely wild. If you've never seen that review, go check it out. It's an absolute meme. In that interview, they also talk a lot more about that new user experience versus the veteran experience. I'd highly recommend checking it out. I won't bother rehashing it all here, but essentially new users are finding the game quite easy to pick up. Old Path of Exile veterans are finding it a bit more challenging. They're finding the game a little unusual, but I assume there's that disconnect, right, between the current systems and the future systems. I imagine that's where that disconnect is, but there's some interesting tidbits in that article, so I'd absolutely recommend checking it out. And within that interview, we got a little bit of information about how successful Grinding Games are expecting Path of Exile to be. Jonathan highlighted that they've had about 350,000 concurrent players through the Settlers of Kalgur League, which is the one currently going. They're expecting for Path of Exile 2 to have around 2 million players jumping into that early access. They didn't really clarify whether that was concurrent or overall. I'm curious to see where that lands. Obviously, I think Path of Exile 2's release is going to be massive, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Obviously, from the Tokyo Game Show, we also got the tidbits of information. The early access release is going to be 3 acts, not 6. Again, I won't cover that in detail. It's in my video linked in the description. And we also got the information that it is going to be paid. We did hear that ages and ages back. Unfortunately, they didn't really discuss whether that was changing when they went from calling it a beta to early access. So I think there's been a bit of confusion in the community. In relation to that, there has been an announcement. There will be a live stream towards the end of October, which should be giving us that more information on what is available in early access and what the supporter packs are going to look like. Because you'll be buying a supporter pack to get access. Those range from low costs, we're guessing around $30, up to the hundreds of dollar packs for those really top tier players. And again, mentioned in my other video, but if you've spent over about 480 lifetime, it's most likely you'll get a key free. That's how they've done it in the past. It's all explained in that video, so I'll leave it to you there. And I guess while we're on the topic of money and spending money, if you're a Path of Exile veteran, you own your MTX, you own your stash tabs and all that, you probably already know this information, but those things are coming across. Again, Octavian discussed in the interview with Snoobe that stash tabs and MTX are coming across. Fantastic news. If you own those currency stash tabs, those mat stash tabs, they are coming. All the MTX are coming. He did put in the caveat, however, the only MTX that won't be transferable between the two are those that affect very specific skills. So for example, if there is a skill in Path of Exile 2 that is in Path of Exile 1 or vice versa, those won't carry over. Makes some pretty good sense there. I'm curious about MTX for skills that are the same but different. So we're looking at skills like your zombies or your skeletons, or a skill that is in both games but functions differently in Path of Exile 2. We don't exactly know what MTX is going to look like for those yet, so something to keep in mind, but ultimately most of it's going across. If you're going to be new to Path of Exile 2 and you haven't played Path of Exile 1, stash tabs are something you probably want to look at when you get to the end of the campaign and into maps. I always say this to new Path of Exile players, consider stash tabs when you get to mapping, because at that point, they can be really crucial in terms of saving your time. And look, that pretty much brings us to the end of the information that came out of the Tokyo Game Show. Again, we got a lot of repeat information, which I've tried not to cover too much here, but we've covered a little bit of it again. We did get a little bit more information as well. They are planning to keep PoE1 alive. That's not new information, I know, but it shows that they are continuing to talk about it. Honestly, as much as they're saying they're going to keep it alive, and I think they will, I think they're going to aim for the players being in the Path of Exile 1 League, then the Path of Exile 2 League, and they're going to stagger them to try and keep the player base kind of cycling between the two. If that works, absolutely fantastic. But if they see a massive drop-off, I would be concerned. I know I've had some comments on my videos of people saying, you know, they're going to support Path of Exile 1 until they don't. And that is the case, right? Even though they're saying they're going to support it, if we see 90% of the players drop off and transition over, we know where 90% of the resources are going to go. That's what I'll say on that. That's my opinion. They've not stated that. That's my opinion anyway. We got some information on the minimum specs. I'm sure that's been posted elsewhere as well, but they're saying minimum would be a GTX 980. I'd be a little worried running a 980. I think that might struggle. Obviously, we're going to have less, you know, massive screen covering particles in Path of Exile 2, but I'd still be hesitant on that one. And then the final thing I haven't mentioned, but I think is worth highlighting, in that interview with Snoobe, him and Octavian have a lot of really interesting discussions on the importance of player agency. And to me, it really highlighted the developers' commitment to keeping player agency, keeping player decisions at the forefront of everything they're doing. It instilled a bit of confidence in me, despite the recent news around Axe being cut and all that kind of stuff. That hasn't worried me too much, but I always find that stuff quite interesting. Again, if you are interested, check out the video in the description and give Snoobe some love as well. Fantastic creator. But with that, that brings me to the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. As always, if you want to help me, throw a like on the video, subscribe if you want more. But you being here, that's what really matters, and I greatly appreciate it. As a side note, I stream twice a week here on YouTube and Twitch, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Come hang out. It's not all Path of Exile content. I stream quite a variety of games, but on Path of Exile 2's release, you know where I'll be. And that's it from me. Have a great weekend, guys. Have a good one, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.